episode 119, live from the great state of Florida in Tampa. No Richide on this episode. It's like back in the day when he was like out of town or sick for a day. He's the substitute teacher's in, right? And we're gonna have a fun class. That's how I feel right now.
Substitute teacher always has the best class.
Yeah, this is what it's gonna be like. And we're in Florida. We're live. We got our second time guest. Got a plane flying by. It might be a couple of those.
Hey, we're just rolling with it, man.
This is
set up, bikes in the back. We got some paddleboard.
that Alex was hosting me with this setup. I didn't do any preparation for this. Before I forget, this podcast is sponsored by Trinity Brewing. This is not one of those beers, unfortunately. We're in Florida, so they're not in Florida. But
One day.
as I said, I've said this before. When they go commercial, I won't drink another beer. So I'm getting all of the other beers out of the way in preparation for Trinity Brewing. Anyways, to the real meat and potatoes of today. Our second time guest, besides our first one, was Trevor, who's Trinity Brewing. So got to shout him out with the sponsorship. Alex Hernandez, who last time when he came on the podcast, he was dabbling in the Catholic faith. He had just gone to his first Catholic mass. And now
Met a saint.
and now we are
Full circle with that story. We'll get there, but that story we'll touch on it a little bit. But it really comes full circle.
and now he's Catholic. He became Catholic on Easter. And it's honestly been so fulfilling for me to see Alex and be even just a minor role in his journey to the faith. And obviously this podcast is called Hot Water History, but for the people that have been listening long enough, they obviously know that it's off of a history book, but we really talk about Catholicism, and we've made a big effort in the last probably 75 episodes now to really emphasize the Catholic part of what Gary and I do. So without further ado, the chief of staff of nearbound.com, Apraxian, all of those other titles are sort of meaningless to me, but now Catholic, Alex Hernandez.
Yeah, man.
That feels good to say. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, it's still that is still definitely hard to get used to. I am a Catholic man, baptized on Easter Vigil, 4.5 hour mass. I've been reminded several times now about that fact. My good friend and mentor Jared Fuller, Isaac Morehouse, shout out to both of them. They both attended and were there for the entire mass, no complaining.
Are they Catholic?
No. They just went for me, and they really it was really nice to have them there to support. So I don't know where you want to get started, so we can.
So I want to start with, and we're doing a little mic passing here, so we're going to do a little longer speeches, but I definitely want to talk about what changed from the first mass, and something that I don't know if our audience knows about, but Gary and I remember we did a recap of our pilgrimage that we went on. So for those that don't know, we did the 60 plus mile trail over 3 days. Alex and I were splitting a tent together for 3 nights with no showers, and just that was, if you want to get to know someone, split a tent with them and walk 60 miles with them. So that was an awesome experience. I want you to touch a little bit on that, but I really want you to go over points that I don't know about in the journey that I want you to talk about, but from the first mass that you went to, which was the subject of the last episode that you were on, to Easter Sunday. I want you to go.
Okay. Yeah, that first mass, man. I remember specifically what it was that I talked to you about on that podcast, the first podcast, and it was like the Holy Spirit was there in the mass with me, because I had no idea what was going on. It was a Latin mass, and the only reason I knew what was going on is because whom I still view as a saint, This beautiful woman was right there, and she pulled out a second missal and showed me to the page. And then when I would get lost, she would give me hers and swap. And so I was able to actually follow along to know what was going on. And if it wasn't for her, I don't think I would have went back. I don't think I would have been Catholic. I wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for Silas, who told me to go to that specific church because he's been there, and kind of give the caveat of where to find a good Catholic church because the quantity varies. I went to a guitar. No. I went to one recently where they were playing a guitar, and I understand what you're saying. I fully understand what you're saying now. That was the weirdest experience of my life at church. We live right by an Air Force base, so that's going to keep happening. But I'm down with it. So after that mass, man, I began to the first thing I started doing was looking at my entire life and noticing the little hypocrisies that were still there, and realizing that for my journey to be complete, I had to start letting go of people, things, activities. I had to let things go because they were still pulling me down. And it was that like 25, 28 years plus of history that was causing me to sin, sometimes unknowingly knowing where temptations would spring up, and then actually paying attention and tracing them to those activities, those people. So it was a year. The reason why I took a year from my first mass, my first mass ever, Palm Sunday.
I remember that. Yeah.
Right? And I just went to Palm Sunday again, so we literally went through a year now.
That's crazy. That's been a year.
Yeah. I couldn't do it half-ass. Like I couldn't do it. So I began looking for ways to deepen my faith. And a part of that was hearing this crazy challenge from Silas to go walk 70 miles in 3 days, upstate New York, following the same path. I think this is important. Like, it's not just walking. It's a somber walk. We are walking the path that the martyrs of North America, Saint Stephen of Yogs, Saint Stephen Yogs, Isaac Yogs, Isaac Yogs. My memory is bad. Wow, that feels really bad that I.
Sorry, if you see me typing, I'm just.
Yeah, of course. So it's the path he walked, and if y'all don't know, like the Native Americans bit his fingers off so he couldn't say mass anymore, and he had to get special permission to go back to those same people after he had already escaped and went back to Europe. So he came back, special permission to still say mass even though he's missing his fingers. That's the path we followed, 20 miles a day. And the backstory, real backstory, and I don't think anyone really knew the extent of it, but my ankle has been injured since I was 20 years old, and I hadn't walked that much on it since then. And I think the last time I checked, my doctor said I had the ankle of a 75-year-old and I shouldn't walk more than like 2 miles a day at one time. So it's this like intense commitment to letting go of the things that were holding me back and trying to find what I look like as like a man of faith. Walking this pilgrimage with friends, saying and singing the rosary at the end of like day one, having to go to bed by sticking an ice pack in my sock, and then just falling asleep like that, taking a bunch of Advil, waking up and getting on sitting on or kneeling on concrete for like a Latin mass, and then getting back out there. I'll be honest, I did not finish the whole thing. So I'll caveat that. I ended up doing some volunteering in the van, shuttling people back and forth. The whole production was amazing. Like I know there's a question whether you're going again. But anyways, I wasn't going to make it on day I wasn't going to make it to the lunch area for day 3. Like I knew I wasn't, but I wanted to. So falling behind from my group, it didn't really matter. I just got out my rosary and was intensely praying to the Virgin Mary incessantly, nonstop for 2 hours. Like literally, I probably prayed like 10 rosaries in that period, and it's the only reason I was able to make it. And then once I got there, I had this like unbelievable feeling of you persevered through pain when you didn't have to, and it was good. It was good to do that. I'll never forget what it felt like to finally get to the burial, right? So like this pain, all these things in your own head for 3 days, asking yourself like, why did I do this? And then to get there and to realize it's like, this was their cross. What they were called to do is go and literally die well for a group of people that had never known the story of Christ. Right. And to die well while praying for your killers, it 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 forces people into like this box where they have to recognize you. And it didn't exactly change the tribe, but it did transform a lot of their lives. And to this day, like, what is that place? It was for the natives, and it is now a shrine to the North American martyrs. So that trip right there, it was like are you serious about joining the Catholic faith? Are you serious? Do you really think that this is what you want to do? And I go to Latin Mass. That's my parish. And not like it's different, but like I really wanted that absolute perfect God-given structure of the Catholic faith, and that was my way of proving it to my 28 years of history, right? So I think I needed, there's a bunch of things that needed to happen for me to now be here, be Catholic. That was one of them, and forever changed.
Nice. I want to get to post pilgrimage, but I do want to talk about the pilgrimage a little more because so much of my life has changed since then as well. You know, I've been admittedly when we were on the walk, I remember being a little lukewarm about the rosary, and you telling me, "Oh, really? Like, I love the rosary," you know. And then Father Mike, he was really just very direct about, "You guys are Catholic men, and you don't teach the rosary. Why would a girl go near you? Why would a Catholic girl go near you ever?" And I haven't missed a day of the rosary since. I don't know how much of it is because of Father Mike's talk, but that's like the I mean, I'm just trying to think back. I've probably only cried 2 or 3 times this entire decade. You get to that site of the North American martyrs, you just collapse. Like I've even I probably blacked out about most parts of the trip just because of the exhaustion and just how traumatic some parts are when you're talking about just not being able to feel your feet at all. And waking up on the third morning and actually probably the second morning's tougher, I would say, because the third morning it's like, okay, this is the last go. The second morning is not only the longest stretch that you do, you also have tomorrow as well. So you do the 22, 23 mile walk, and then you've got to wake up the next morning too. But you get to the site, and then we've got that saying in the faith on Ash Wednesday, "You are dust, and to dust you shall return." There's some moments that I completely understand what that means, and that was one of those moments when you're walking by the shrines and you see all of the saints and their sacrifices and the martyrs that you're talking about, and then you just get to the. I mean, at least this happened to me. I just get to you're just at the finish line and you just pass out, and it definitely a life changing moment for me. I want you to talk about, and I've got some other questions on the faith and converting, but I want you to take me from that point, which is the last time I've seen you in person, to Easter Sunday.
Oh, yeah. The rosary comment. I've told a bunch of people this now, but my thoughts on it are: if you're trying to like witness to someone and you don't tell them to pray the rosary, it's an absolute derelict of duty. Because for me, it's like sharpening my knife. Like I I can face things because Our Lady is with me and because she points me to Christ. So from then, like I came back and that feeling that I had to change everything was like multiplied by 10. So I said, like, I could have gotten baptized into the church a few weeks later. Like my priest gave me that ability. He's like, if you want to, you can come in as early as 3 weeks. And I specifically said that there's some things that I need to attend to. And I know it's like the most important thing is just like go get baptized, receive His grace. But for me, there's some things I needed to attend to just on the personal side, because if I'm committing to eternity in the Catholic Church with God, then I absolutely need to. So everything that I was doing beforehand that was good stayed, like mass every Sunday, going to men's group, reading the Bible, started reading the Catechism. So just head first, everything. The Rosary a couple times a day. The truth was, I was with a girl. We were living together, chaste, which was hard, and she wasn't Catholic, had no interest in becoming Catholic, and wasn't really interested in her children being Catholic either. And for me, it's like, okay, I'm feeling called to not just join the Catholic faith. I'm feeling called to do my part to grow the church. Like whatever I can do, I want to do it. And I felt like there was this chasm between like this woman I loved and was trying to figure out like marriage because we're living together, and I'm about to join the church, and I just didn't want that temptation there. And like the hard truth is I had to break up with her. I broke up with her, and it was one of the hardest things I've had to do. Like, she's an amazing woman. She's smart, funny, calm, sweet, caring. But that was never going to be important to her like it was important to me. And with everything going on with the world and with me, like I couldn't purposely give my future children a hurdle. Like I need someone who is got their eyes laser focused on Mary and on Christ, so that when we do have children, I don't have to be the only example of Christ in their life. Like my my only goal is to be like Christ. Christians were to be little Christs, right? And you create this like beautiful, naive child together, and like that means everything.
Yeah.
So I couldn't do it with her, and so I had to break both of our hearts. I had to, and possibly the hardest thing I've ever done, but I know it was right, and it kind of pointed to, I've been calling it PEMDAS, like the math term.
Yeah.
The order of operations for life and love is very important. So what did we do? Like, I don't know if you want to like edit this out, but like sex before marriage, living together, right? All that before marriage. And then to go and say, well, we're going to remove this piece. We're still living together. Now let's go and like figure out me becoming Catholic. And anything I did, it felt like an ultimatum. And it wasn't going to work. So I made up my mind, and I gave myself till Easter. And I broke up with her 2 weeks beforehand because I really tried to make it work. I really, really did. And we have a dog together. Like, it's nothing compared to children. Like, I really, truly believe that if I just said, nope, marriage, this is my wife, I'm Catholic, she's not, 10 years down the line, she's gonna, like, it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
There's the chasm would have grown, and now I'm like, okay, I can't just get that absolved. It's in my heart. I would know it was a real marriage, right? So I couldn't do it. Broke up with her. She left. Get this. She left the Wednesday before Holy Thursday. I helped her pack up her things. I checked in on her on the way home. I made sure she was okay, and then I went and got baptized into the church. Like, the Easter Vigil was the most beautiful experience I've ever had. It really, truly felt like I was dying with Christ and like emerging a completely different person, like completely calm, no worries, just peace. And full circle, I told you I'd get there.
Yeah.
We were given there were 5 of us that were getting baptized, and we were all given just a row. And so each of our rows had all of our family and friends. Yep. Right? I'll mention 2. Maybe we'll get there. My dad, he came out.
Really?
My dad came out, and those you don't know, the relationship there is very rough. And so it was like almost a test that if I was to receive his mercy, I had to give it. And it was like there, right? So totally wild experience that. But so we have 7 people. Ella Richmond went. Nice. Jared Fuller, Amelia Taylor, Isaac Morehouse, Alex Hernandez Sr., my godfather and godmother, because that's my first time being baptized, so I have a godfather and godmother. They're just the usher at my church. Okay. KC and Sonia. So there was like room for 2 more people in our pew. And who do you think just randomly was like, these seats work? Can we sit here?
Don't tell me it's
that woman.
No way, dude. No way. No way.
That woman who I still haven't talked to, dude.
You don't know her name?
I don't know her name. She's that woman. Was sitting there while I got baptized with my family.
That's insane. Nah, dude. Nah, that's insane. You don't even know her name? She's an angel. So who's the other? Is it her husband?
Her fiance. Her fiance. So, dude, a saint minimum.
Angel. It's an angel.
Yeah, like I was focusing. I was getting my directions from the priest. It's before mass, and then like I hear some commotion. They're like, "Yeah, it's fine," and then I look, and it's that woman from my very first mass is in my pew, sitting next to Ella.
Wow. That's so special, man. That whole story, I didn't know you were going to go into. I didn't know any of those details. I didn't know your dad showed up. I didn't know about. I didn't know Isaac and Jared showed up. I didn't know any of that. But and especially, I mean, we got. I wish we could give that woman a name.
I know.
But that's pretty. That is, I mean, and there's still people out there who don't believe in God. You know,
I know.
like, they can hear this story and then they could say nope. You know, yeah,
Could have been anyone that sat there.
right.
Yeah, but it was her.
Yeah, but it wasn't any. But it wasn't any
anyone.
woman. Yeah, you know. I had a couple questions, and you could keep these short. I don't need you to go on, but I do have some just very practical questions since you're, obviously new to the church. What should us Catholics do to convert more people? We're called to baptize. I'm sure you had a lot of people giving you kind of the Catholic sales pitch as far as you know, we got a hot lead. This Alex Hernandez kid is thinking about getting baptized. I'm sure you had a lot of people reaching out to you. I guess what worked, what didn't work, how can we really help grow the church in a appropriate and meaningful way?
Stories of the saints. It's heroes' journeys. It's baked into the faith. And Protestants, they don't have that. They don't have a deep connection to people in the past that are like living really hard lives but giving it to God, right? So if you just have a few just on deck always. You hear about what they're going through. Oh my gosh, St. Monica was going through that too. Her kids were not wanting to join the faith, and they had these weird beliefs.
Yeah.
Dude, I swear it works. That's what worked for me. I like nothing here makes sense. Nothing here makes sense at all these other churches. There's no depth. Give them depth. Mm-hmm. What is in this Nicene Creed? I believe in the Holy Catholic, the Holy Spirit, the Holy Catholic Church, and the communion of the saints. It's very important because it's a community that is eternal, timeless, transcendent. You can talk to him right now. I can pray to my patron saint, Saint Joseph, and I know he's listening, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, and Protestants will say like, well, why not just go straight to Christ? It's like, yes, but why not both? Because Christ was perfection, man. And sometimes I feel like if I like, yes, go to him, but why can't I go to someone who felt the burden too?
Pray for his intercession.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pray, like exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right? So have those stories of the saints, especially for like young men. Like how many Crusader saints do we got? How many, like, we need to tell those stories. It's so good. The other thing is just witness. Witness, be vulnerable, tell them what helped you. And if you do that, man, if you're like calm and you say, I was a sinner, I am still, I was just so lost and disconnected, and now it's like I have clarity. Why do I have clarity? It's because I know where we came from, I know where I am, I know who I am. I'm a follower of Christ, and I know that like there are, I think I said this in the first one, but I still believe it. Like, if you were to learn how to swim, Do you want to be thrown into a storm in the middle of the ocean? Or do you want to be in a pool and be able to grab the side?
Yeah.
I just had this, like, I learn in metaphors and think in like visualizations. And so I just pictured myself on a slack line, 1,000 feet in the air. And like, if I can hold on to him. And his hand is always there. It's always there. There's no off days. Right. There's no taking time off. He's just, okay, I feel good now. But the thing is, he wants you to walk. So it's like, okay, I'm going to walk. You stay focused on him. But like, when you look out into the world, it's going to draw you. You're going to fall off the slack line. And the only thing waiting for you out there, falling, is death. I've been in a place where I built the brick wall that turned into my own my very own hell. And I share that. Yeah. And I say, like, okay, why do you think why it's so important to not sleep with everyone you meet? Well, I happen to have I did that when I used to be an events manager for Coachella. And I got to a place where I was in so much despair that I couldn't even get up in the morning. Is that what you want? Yeah. That's what's waiting for you if you continue down this path. Does it make you feel good? Does it make you feel good? Yeah. Witness to them. Be as honest as you can be. And, like, you don't have to be fire and brimstone. If they're sinning, God made us. He made us in his image. If they're sinning, they don't feel good. I guarantee you. So just talk about it.
This is like the best episode we've ever done. Sorry, Gary. You're probably listening to this, editing this, and you're so jealous that you can't be here. But it is what it is, you know? And, you know, this is so great, you know, being able to talk to you. I love the saint stories. I've got some Lutheran friends, and I've been working on a couple of them for a while now, especially the ones that I can tell have Catholic tendencies, you know, and I use the St. Lawrence story. Do you know his martyrdom story? He was being grilled alive, right? And as he's being grilled alive, he says, "This side's done. You can flip me over now." And now he's the patron saint of comedians and grill masters, just for that. You know, just the absolute. We use the term based now in kind of secular conservative culture. Yeah. The early saints and martyrs are some of the most based people you'll ever meet or you'll ever come across throughout history. You know
why? Because they had the perfect example in Christ. People don't, like, you can read the Bible. If it's just scripture without the stories, you'll never know that Jesus didn't say, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do," one time. The tradition is he said that for hours. Do you know how much energy it takes to lift yourself up on the cross after not having eaten, not having slept, been betrayed? Your own people are hand you over, and Barabbas is freed, right? To lift yourself up and say for hours, "Forgive them, Father, for they do not know not what they do." And who followed him up? Stephen. And who followed him up? All the saints.
One last question. This has been awesome. Before we get to Meanwhile in Oak Park, let's do both. The hardest part about being Catholic and your favorite part about being Catholic.
Wow. The hardest part about being Catholic is, and this is like pure honesty, but not ignoring his voice when he tells you that the way you've been living or the way your family's been living is wrong. Because it's so easy to ignore that, man. Like, I don't want to tell them that. I'd rather just stay out of it. But it's like, he's calling you to say something right now. And if you don't, that's a sin. There's 7 ways to sin, and that's one of them. Not saying something when sin is happening. You know how hard it is when you live in a culture like where there's sin everywhere. My family sins, and I don't want them to just see me as like Judgy Bub. That's what they call me.
Really?
Nickname is Bubba. They call me Judgy Bub because I can't not say it. Or my friends, like even the ones that I kind of had to push away, and they're coming back, and I can't go out to the club with you because there's all these women, and I don't want that. It's very hard to stand on your morals, man.
Yeah.
It's so hard. It's so easy to just like, well, I could just not say anything. Favorite thing about being Catholic is, they used to say that story growing up, and like I would go to Awana's sometime. If you don't know what that is, it's like vacation, like Christian vacation Bible school. And they'd say like, you got to put on the whole armor of God, right? And it's like, there's like prayer and read the Bible. Like I can't remember from then, but it's like I know like there is a whole armor of God. It's called the sacraments, and it's the rosary, and it's fasting. So when it's hard for me to, like, I don't have to do it alone now because someone else has already figured it out. If I'm tempted, pray the rosary. If you're still tempted after praying the rosary, then something is wrong. Like in your mind, like it's gone for me. You pray the rosary, you fast. If you're making a hard decision, I've been making a hard decision, so I've been fasting on Wednesdays and Fridays every Wednesday and Friday. If you still want to sin, think about the confession. Do you want to go there? Do you want to have to confess? Do you want to have to throw away the grace and have to go beg for it back again? Do you want to be able to receive our Lord in the Eucharist this Sunday? Or do you want to have to wait and go to confession first? These things are built in, man.
Yeah.
They're built in. I have so many barriers that I have to break down in order to get to that sin now. Favorite thing. And the love of Mary, man. Like I have a good mom, but she's a devouring mother. She would have killed all the Romans if she could. She would have. Like, no doubt. But Mary gave him up. And it's so that we could feel his love to this day. And so to have them both, favorite thing.
Awesome. All right, man. Let's get to. We're gonna come back down from the clouds and talk about. It's a little silly talking about it now, but this is the part of the show where we talk about a town in Illinois where they don't have these types of conversations. I got a feeling, and it's Meanwhile in Oak Park.
Meanwhile in Oak Park.
Meanwhile in Oak Park.
We got to. It just feels so silly talking about this, after that. But it's part of the show, It's part of the show. I like when you were speaking about that, I really felt like the Holy Spirit working through you there, and now I got to talk about District 200's message to the community. We're committed to equity and excellence.
Hey, man. District 200.
D200.
Sometimes tables need flipping, you know?
Yeah, right. Yes. Superintendent Greg Johnson holds his third community address. Last year, an Oak Park and River Forest High School consultants report showed that residents who don't have children attending the school have a less favorable view of the it than parents do. That's literally what it says. It says view of the it than parents do. Yeah, the Wednesday Journal, they don't really do the whole, they haven't figured out Grammarly yet. So they don't have those, they don't have a Grammarly account. And you get sentences like attending the school have a less favorable view of the it than parents do. So that instead of the school. Okay. Which, and that also makes sense, by the way, that the parents of the school have a more favorable view, which is why they send their kids there, right? OPRF officials concluded that they needed to do a better job reaching out to the wider community. So this year, Superintendent Greg Johnson has been making the rounds. During his third appearance last week, Johnson appeared before 24 people at a community of congregations event held in the Fellowship Hall of United Lutheran Church in Oak Park. Most of those in the crowd had kids who had graduated from OPRF years ago and were eager to hear about what the school is like now. Johnson gave a 20-minute presentation followed by Q&A. Johnson said that the school is committed to equity and excellence. Quote, it is a school that is committed to equity and excellence in all the different ways that we go about that work, and I will tell you that both of those things are challenging. So none of the work we do at the high school is easy, and we stumble along the way, and do our best to stare ourselves in the face when we stumble and course correct and move forward. Okay, so this is a little bit of context for you. For our listeners, they'll know this story. This OPRF parent essentially pointed out, and he did this whole deep dive for the Wednesday Journal, kind of a just reasonable parent, you know, the one that's out there that no one's going to listen to, but, you know, actually has some points, right? He basically went through all of the data from the last 5 years and said basically the gap between black and white students at OPRF, it's actually not getting better despite all of these silly efforts that we've been doing. So, like, what are we doing here? And the most pointed questions came from Ross Lazzuzo, an OPRF parent, who pointed out that the achievement gap between black and white students at OPRF has grown in recent years, and that absolute academic achievement, as measured by the Illinois State Record Card, has gone down in recent years. So the gap's getting wider, and the kids are actually getting dumber, right? Lazzuzo said, what we're doing is not working from an academic perspective. Johnson did not dispute Lazzuzo's characterization of the data. That's exactly right, Johnson said. He said that it has not been possible to track academic growth of students in recent years because the COVID pandemic has disrupted testing. The school report card is based on the SAT exam, which all public high school students are mandated to take as juniors, and each class is different. Closing the achievement gap has been a main focus at OPRF. Superintendent Johnson says, there are no quick fixes to this challenge. They don't exist. Post-COVID, you see an expansion of some of our gaps, and that's a fact. Quote, what really is key to the quality of the school, Johnson added, is what happens during sophomore, junior, and senior years. Okay, so freshman year doesn't matter. He said that it is too early to tell how effective the school's honor for all approach has been. You don't know about this. At OPRF, if you're a freshman, I believe it's for a certain amount of courses. It's like English, history, language. I think it's like all of them except maybe math and science. Everyone's in an honors class. Yeah, it's everything's considered an honors class. Yeah, yeah. It's funny because Rich Eyed, who's hopefully still listening to this, he was actually talking about inflation for a while before everyone talks about it now, right? Rich Eyed was talking about, and we went to private Catholic school, but the grade inflation, and he would really explain that to people back in like the 20 teens, too. And that was kind of an interesting. I never even really thought about inflation at all, but that's kind of how I got to understand economic inflation. It would be him talking about how, well, if everyone gets A's, then we're actually if we have to lower the standard, to get everyone there, then no one's really getting better here.
That's what I was, like the key words that stood out is equity and excellence. How do you have equity and excellence? That's an oxymoron. Equity is going to the only way to get equity is to bring the top down so that they're all on a level playing field. You can't just raise the people up because then it just doesn't work. So now you're left with everyone's lower, so no one's excellent.
Yeah, exactly. Johnson pointed out that administrators. Oh, wait, I skipped over this. He said that it is too early to tell how effective the school's Honor for All approach has been, noting that next year's junior class is the first class that was impacted by it. Their performance on the SAT next year will yield important data. Quote, it's an important year for us, without a doubt, Johnson said. These kids are going to take the most high-pressure SAT test of their lives. There's about to be so much, like, cheating going on just for to help the numbers with the school. Johnson pointed out that administrators have not found evidence that the new Honors for All curriculum is causing harm. Quote, there's no clear sign that what we're doing here is causing harm, Johnson said. Well, I don't know.
By what measure?
Yeah. One questioner noted that OPRF has always been a different experience for those in the honors track than for those who took regular level classes. Johnson noted the diversity of classes offered at OPRF, but said that the school has been trying to get more consistency in its classes so that the same class taught by different teachers will cover the same content. Johnson said that OPRF has traditionally given teachers a lot of autonomy to develop their classes, and the focus on consistency and some uniformity among classes may have caused grumbling among some teachers. Maya Riley, a 2014 graduate of OPRF, said that she was concerned by the drop in academic performance at the school, noting that last year it was ranked last year in the top 13%. This is another Grammarly thing. Noting that last year it was ranked last year in the top 13% of public high schools in Illinois. She said it was ranked in the top 10% of high schools when she attended. Which is actually really scary to think about, that it's still better than 87% of Illinois high schools. Right? That's where we're at. There's some things that I think are good, but I have noticed kind of the decline in the academics since I was there, Riley said. Tony Graff, whose daughter graduated from OPRF several years ago, said that closing the achievement gap is a big task. Quote, there's so much to be done closing the gap that it's very difficult to do. Thanks. Yeah, that's what the town's full of. It's just all nothing sentences and just talking about nothing. There's so much to be done closing the gap that it's very difficult to do. What a zero statement. Closing the gap, it's also the elementary schools, the feeder schools. It's not just the high school. There's so much involved in it. It's a monumental issue. That's how the article ends.
There's so much involved to it. It's a monumental.
That's how
you're ending.
Yeah.
You're.
Yeah. There's never a solution. Bro.
You're ending with.
These people are not.
What?
They're not entrepreneurs, bro.
They need. Oh my.
This will really grind your gears, and I read these two in order specifically for effect. OPRF principal Linda Parker will retire in 2028. This permits 6% annual raises for her and spokeswoman Karen Sullivan, who joins her. Two of the top employees at OPRF High School announced they'll be retiring in 4 years. On March 7th, the District 200 Board of Education approved the notices from Principal Linda Parker and Executive Director of Communications and Community Relations Karen Sullivan, effective June 30th, 2028. Why put in retirement for a little more than 4 years from now? Because at OPRF, administrators are allowed to take advantage of a provision in the faculty contract, which does not cover administrators. It permits educators who put in an irrevocable written notice of their retirement by March 1st, up to 4 years before to the year of retirement, to get 6% raises during those final years of their career. Listen to this. This is where it gets better. Those above average raises boost the pension that the retiring employee will receive because Illinois teacher retirement system pensions are based on the average of a worker's highest paid years. Okay, so they get 6% up each year, and we're going to go through the numbers. They've got the salary numbers later in this article, and it's some disgusting stuff. The so-called pension spike is limited to 6% by the state. Thanks, Illinois. Pension spikes are common in teachers' contracts. School districts generally like them because they provide an incentive for highly paid veteran teachers to retire. The school district can then replace the highly paid retiring teachers with younger, cheaper teachers. Because the increased pension costs are covered by TRS and taxpayers, the school district pays the higher raises only during the final 4 years of an employee's career, but also with the pension. Yeah. Right. A similar provision exists in the contract for Oak Park District 97 teachers. School board president Tom Kofsky, who you don't know, but he's a character in OPRF, said that the board permits this arrangement because there are similarities between administrators and teachers. Okay, so Tom Kofsky, so when they were shutting winter sports down during COVID, Tom Kofsky was the guy when they were debating whether to bring basketball back or whether not to. He was saying that, well, since extracurriculars are a optional activity, can we make vaccines mandatory for optional activities? That's Tom Kofsky for you. Yeah. Quote, an administrator has a number of the rights and privileges of a teacher, Kofsky said. They're subject to the same pension group. The OPRF staffers retiring this year have received the 6% bump in salary. Next year, one will. I don't really get this paragraph, but in 2026, the numbers swell to 13. For 2027, it's 14.
13 people getting a 6%
Oh,
boost.
That's it. For 2027, it's 14, and 2027, it's 15. I didn't read that right. One reason for the jump is that teachers retiring in 2027 who are receiving the 6% raises had to agree to have their salary frozen for the 2021-22 school. And those 2021-22 school year. Jeez, do I need to write for the Wednesday Journal too? Like, if you're just gonna give us communist propaganda, can you at least give it with some pronunciation, please? And those getting the bump in 2028 agreed to have their salaries frozen for 2 years. Okay, so essentially they took the COVID year off, I guess. Parker's salary is right now.
Oh gosh, I should just try and be accurate. I'm gonna guess 120.
You're off. Do you think it's higher or lower?
There's no way it's more than that.
It's more. How much more?
150.
It's more than that. Parker's salary is $185,610.20. This is principal of OPRF. It's a good gig. I don't know why I became an entrepreneur, to be honest with you. I should have just done the thing. Hold on. With the 6% raises compounded over 4 years. Okay. Her final salary is calculated to be $234,339.95. She'll be 56. Usually, TRS employees hired before 2011 must have worked 35 years and be at least 55 years old. Parker said that she has not yet thought about what she will do in retirement. Quote, this is such a fuck you. This is such a fuck you. This quote, Parker said, I love what I do. As for Sullivan, she earns $130,402.83. OPRF pays for Sullivan's employee pension contribution, but because Sullivan is not a certified staff member, she is not covered by TRS and instead is covered by the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, which covers mainly those who work for local government. I have no idea what she's going to do. IMRF workers pay into and receive Social Security. Sullivan will be 62 when she retires and will receive a discounted IMRF pension Under IMRF rules, employees are eligible to retire at 67 to receive a full pension. Sullivan has worked for OPRF since 2012 and worked for River Forest District 90 2 years before that. quote. Yeah, I have a feeling Sullivan's not going to be begging for money on Lake Street, but 12 years in and I still love my job, Sullivan said. But it's feasible for me to go out at 62, and there are things I want to do, and I'm going to do it. All right, we're almost done. Quote, I feel fortunate to have a pension, Sullivan said. That's a retirement benefit of the past in most instances. Parker said that giving notice of her intent to retire 4 years in advance gives the district a long time to plan to replace her. Quote, I feel it's important that we plan and make moves so that we're prepared for the continued flourishing of our school, Parker said. So I recognize that there's young talent and individuals who probably have great ideas, so I want to make sure that we're preparing the way for that to happen.
Meanwhile in Oak Park.
We just get a quick prayer for all these people with the nothing burgers and the things they want to do. Like, oh my gosh. You just submit yourself to that torture on a consistent basis.
I know.
I'm just kidding.
I know. But, yeah. And, you know, yeah, it's like I would never send my kids there, but it's funny, right? Big Brother's everywhere. And I, you know, as much as I love Florida, you know, when we were coming here in the Uber, the lady Uber driver, she says, the reason I'm driving kind of slow is because when I go over the speed limit, it knows on the app and it dings them and they can get canceled. That's not a rule in Illinois. Did you know that? That's what she was saying to me is that, and she was driving, I mean, driving the speed limit on the highway is kind of embarrassing because, right, it's too slow. But she was saying, yeah, if I go, like, it might not be bad if I go 5 over, but if I go 6 over, I can get dinged, whatever that means. And I don't know if she was just making an excuse. I don't think she was lying to me, but, or making an excuse to kind of drive slower, but if that's true, and I kind of want to look more into that, but you know, the state's everywhere, you know, and we've talked about it enough that we got to just find those places in our life where we're free. And for most, you know, for us, at least, it's definitely the church, which is definitely a good wrap on the whole episode, is that it kind of is the escape from all of that. And, you know, I asked you, what's your favorite part about being Catholic, to answer that myself, because I was thinking about that as I was asking it, right? I just have a feeling that we get the last laugh here, you know? I love the idea that, okay, you know, lose the battle, win the war type deal. And as a Catholic, and especially practicing and keeping up and being in a state of grace, I think that's the win. That is the last laugh, right? And that's what I kind of like, is that out of all of this, just this complete BS that we deal with from these people that just hate us, right? We still have God, and you mentioned it. We have Him every day, right? And he never leaves us, and it's not a you get out of church and that it's over with. God's always there. So I was reflecting a lot on that. I didn't exactly know how I was going to wrap that up, but I really appreciate, Alex. This has seriously been one of the best episodes that we've done. I've been so pumped that, you know, we get to be in the flesh again, and now we get to hang out a bunch tonight and tomorrow. So I appreciate this. Rich, I'd be jealous, man. This is a good one. Alex, appreciate it, bro.
Good to be here.